Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome back to the Day of Sorrow, Yawmul Gham, here on Imam Hussein TV, where we continue our discussion on the destruction of Jannat al-Baqi. My name is Sister Sayyidah Mahdiya, and I'm honored to welcome on set with me once again Sister Dua. Sister, Assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
It's always an honor and a pleasure to be on with you as we continue our discussion in this segment on the destruction of Jannat al-Baqi. Now we send our condolences and we send our salams to the holy Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi Ajalallahu Ta'ala Faraj al-Sharif, and we send our salams to the holy inhabitants and those holy graves which are buried in Jannat al-Baqi. And just as today, as we mark the anniversary of the destruction of Jannat al-Baqi, millions around the world, Shia and non-Shia, Muslims and non-Muslims, mark the anniversary of the destruction of Jannat al-Baqi by holding peaceful protests, by doing peaceful marches, by doing talks, discussions. And it's platforms like we have today where we can draw awareness as to the destruction that took place. And we know that the site of Jannat al-Baqi is a very holy site for us Shias, but non-Shias as well, which we will continue in our discussion today. Now we know that the original destruction that took place was in 1806. The extremist regime, the extremist Wahhabi regime, completely flattened the whole of Jannat al-Baqi. Years after that, the Ottoman Empire came and rebuilt Jannat al-Baqi. However, once again, on the 8th of Shawwal, 1925, the destruction of Jannat al-Baqi took place once again. And once again, all the graves were flattened. There was no mark that was left. There was no dome that was left. Any relevance and any marking that would pinpoint the holy graves was completely demolished and completely flattened. Now we know that Jannat al-Baqi for us, dear sister, is extremely important. It houses the graves of our four holy Imams: Imam Hassan alayhi salam, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, Imam Baqir alayhi salam, and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. And in front of that we have the grave of Abbas, the uncle of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. But we also know that there are other graves in there, and narrations tell us there is up to 10,000 graves housing the graves of the holy companions and the holy family of the Ahlul Bayt alayhum as-salam. We have the graves of Abdullah, who was the son of Ja'far al-Tayyar, the husband of Sayyidah Zainab salamullahi alayha. We have the grave of Aqil, who was the brother of Imam Ali, the son of Hazrat Abu Talib alayhi salam. We also have the grave of Ibrahim. Ibrahim was a young infant, the young son of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, that passed away in infancy. And narrations tell us that is Imam Ali alayhi salam himself that buried Ibrahim with his bare hands. We also know, and we will go more about this into discussion as our segment continues, there are women buried in that graveyard as well. We have the graves of Fatima bint Asad, the mother of Imam Ali alayhi salam. We have the grave of Bibi al-Baneen alayhi salam, the mother of Imam Ali alayhi salam. We have, and some narrations tell us, the grave of Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha. Now we know that when Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha was buried, she was buried in secrecy in the darkness of the night because of the political situation and the climate at that time. And we will continue our discussion on this in a little bit more in detail as we continue our segment today. So 1925, they completely flattened and demolished all of Jannat al-Baqi. And we know that Jannat al-Baqi is of particular relevance to us because our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, would often visit Jannat al-Baqi. And when he would visit, he would send his salams and he would ask forgiveness for those who were buried in Jannat al-Baqi. The holy Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, in fact Imam Sadiq narrates that the holy Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam would visit Jannat al-Baqi on a Thursday, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam would visit Jannat al-Baqi on a Friday morning to pay his respects to Imam Hassan alayhi salam's grave. Now we also know that when the demolition and the destruction of Jannat al-Baqi took place, Jannat al-Mu'alla in Makkah was also destroyed and touched. Jannat al-Mu'alla is the holy graveyard which has the graves of Sayyidah Khadijah salamullahi alayha. Bibi Amina alayhi salam, who's the mother of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. It has the graves of Hazrat Abu Talib and Hazrat Abdul Muttalib, the grandfather of our beloved Prophet Muhammad. The house of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, when he was migrating to Medina, that house was also demolished. And the house of Imam Ali alayhi salam, where Hassanain alayhim salam were born, was also demolished. Now, we have this brief introduction on the relevance of heritage. We have this brief introduction on the great and sheer importance of Jannat al-Baqi within our Shia school of thought. But if we look at heritage as a whole, if we look at heritage within society as a whole, Islam teaches us that when we visit a graveyard or when we visit a cemetery, we must have certain etiquettes. We pay our respects to those who are buried there. We send our salams. We enter the graveyard in a humble manner. We sit down. We talk to those who are buried in the grave. We recite Fatiha, du'as, Quran. So if we look at heritage as a whole now within society, and we open up today's discussion of today's segment, why is heritage as a whole so important to respect, and why is it so important to speak about as a whole in society?
You know, if you look at society today, all societies, not only Islamic societies, it's very important. I mean, you have great graves of public figures, people from past histories. And not only that, you know, there are things that are connected to public figures, for example, or someone that has, you know, something done in history. It could even be like a football player or, you know, a singer who has, you know, one pair of gloves, and they buy these things with very expensive prices. Or maybe a jersey, you know, that they use these, they're very like expensive, they're valued. And if you look at it, really it doesn't have, you know, a meaning to it. But because it's connected and it's linked to someone from history, it marks history, it becomes, you know, very important. People today, they value in all societies autographs, you know. People take autographs of public figures, people that are well known. So it's not only the grave as well, it's anything that's linked and connected to people who have done something in history, whether they were, you know, Olympic players or football players or singers or famous actors. Everything that connects to them sometimes becomes valued in all societies. And if you realize, you know, in the Islamic society as well, and I'll bring you a hadith from non-Shia book, from the book of Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 1, Book 4, Hadith 188. Everything that was connected to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was valued. There's this narration that after Hudaybiyah, because people did not really understand the whole you know, value of the Holy Prophet until Hudaybiyah, people valued the Holy Prophet. So in Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 1, Book 4, Hadith 188, it narrates that the Holy Prophet was doing ablution, wudu. And the narration says, كَادُ الْمُسْلِمُونَ أَنْ يَقْتَتِلُونَ عَلَى وُضُوءِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ. They were fighting over the water that the Holy Prophet was using to do wudu. Now, what is the value of this water? It has no value. But as soon as the Holy Prophet touched that water, it became valuable. Because he is khayru khalqillah. He is the most honorable creation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. And people knew his value. And this is in Sahih al-Bukhari. They fought for these water, for these drops of water, because it touched the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. So it was so valuable. And if you also read another hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, and this is just to show you that everything that's connected to the Holy Prophet from the non-Shi'as, not only the Shi'as, it's valuable. It means something. There's barakah. They have a hadith also in Sahih al-Bukhari, Kitab al-Libas, that Salama, when the Holy Prophet was martyred and he died, Salama had a piece of his hair, his wife. And those people who would have an evil eye, and they talk about that in Sahih al-Bukhari, that an eye can really affect people. And people that had an eye, due to what? Some people can sleep in bed for 3 days because of an eye. Some people can go insane. Whatever happens to you with that evil eye that hurts you, they would knock the door on Salama with a bowl of water. And Salama would take that hair of Rasulullah and she would dip it in that bowl of water and she'd take it out and they'd drink from it. And they would go back and they would be cured. So that was like in Sahih al-Bukhari. It shows you that everything that is connected to the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, had barakah. Now when you come to our graves, this metal that's connected, like this metal has no meaning to it. It has no barakah. But as soon as this metal became part of the grave of the Holy Prophet, it has barakah. Our graves of our Imams, you know, they are not just a drop of water that the Holy Prophet was doing ablution with. It's not a piece of hair of the Prophet. How about if I tell you those 4 Imams in Jannat al-Baqi and the companions of the Imam and the ladies that are buried there, they are from his lineage. And this is why we value them. And this is why these graves are very important to us. And you know, when you embrace the grave, this is not bud'ah, this is not shirk. Shirk is when you worship someone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it was shirk, then the Holy Prophet in Sahih al-Bukhari would have said that, you know, don't take that drop of water, that's shirk and that's bud'ah. Or Salama, you know, Salama, she plenty of times in plenty of narrations in front of the Sahaba on the streets, they would ask her for the hair of Rasulullah. She would dip it in water. If that was bud'ah, if that was shirk, then the Sahaba would have told her that that's shirk. But it happened in front of the Sahaba and they didn't say it was shirk. Likewise, when we want our shrines of our Imams, one, because they're not just a hair from Rasulullah, they are from his lineage, they are his grandchildren, they are who he said that this is my kinship, show love to them. قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا they asked him, Ya Rasulullah, who is this verse descended down to? Who's your qurba? He says, my Ahlul Bayt. And the reason why, you know, we value their graves is because they're connected to the Holy Prophet. The Prophet asked us, and this is where it becomes that it has barakah, it has tabarruk. It's not that we're, you know, doing shirk and bud'ah. No, we're taking tabarruk how everyone throughout history, if you literally look at Sahih al-Bukhari, there's so much narrations that everything that was connected and linked to Rasulullah, it had barakah to it.
Subhanallah, when we look at, for example, if somebody within our family, one of our dear close relatives or our friends has passed away, we find peace and solitude when we sit at their grave and we speak to them and we recite du'as and amal and Quran. So surely when we sit at the graves of the holy Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, there is so much more barakah and blessings. We even, for example, we are blessed to go to the ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That peace that we feel is next, there is nothing imaginable compared to that peace that we feel. Yet we are restricted from going to Jannat al-Baqi. We are restricted from going to those 4 holy Imams. And often we don't do enough service and respect to Imam Hassan, Imam Sajjad, Imam Baqir and Imam Sadiq as we do to the other holy Imams because we can't visit their graves. So yes, like you said, the respect that is there for those holy Imams and those holy companions and the holy family of our beloved Prophet Muhammad within Jannat al-Baqi is next to nothing. And it's platforms like this which allow us to express the love that we have and to talk about their significance, the respect that they deserve, and to talk about the destruction and why it should be honored annually every single year. Now, we spoke about the significance of Jannat al-Baqi, and in the introduction we said how we have the 4 holy Imams, we have Abbas, the uncle of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, we have Aqil, we have Abdullah, we have Ibrahim, we have some of the wives of our Holy Prophet, we have the aunts of our Holy Prophet, we have Bibi Baneen, we have Sayyidah Fatima, and we also have Fatima bint Asad, who is buried in Jannat al-Baqi. So Jannat al-Baqi, if you look at it, and some narrations actually say that our beloved Prophet Muhammad has been heard to say that Jannat al-Baqi will be raised as a piece of land to enter Jannah as well on the day of resurrection. That's how important Jannat al-Baqi is. So why is it, sister, why is it so disrespectful when the destruction of Jannat al-Baqi took place? Why is this so disrespectful, not just to us Shias, but to Sunnis and all Muslims and non-Muslims as well?
It's our history. You demolished our history. I mean, Imam Hassan alayhi salam has a history. How can we build this connection with the Imam and build the connection generation after generation to bring our children and grandchildren to these mosques, to these graves, and show them that this is Imam Hassan. Who's Imam Hassan? This was his history. Sometimes you read books, but that's if you actually go to read books. But when you do a tour and you see a grave, you start to learn more. You build this connection. Today we have connection with Sayyidah Fatima al-Ma'suma in Qum. In history narrates very few stories about her. We have not much books that narrates about her, but we have this strong connection to her. Why? It's because we see her grave. You said Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein, we have plenty of narrations, and yes, we do build this relationship, and we realize that we didn't build a relationship with Imam Hassan alayhi salam, and he's the second Imam, and it's like we feel there, on his birth and his martyrdom day, we mourn, we cry that we can't even show a picture of his grave, and is demolished. We have the graves of all our four Imams that are buried there. That's their history, Today, for example, when you go to see a grave of any public figure, for example, Martin Luther King or, Malcolm X, and you realize that people who don't read about them would see their graves and say, who is this public figure? And it revives their message that this is what they did, and this is their history, and this is why there's a grave for them. Likewise, our Imams is disrespectful. Today, if you go to Baghdad, you would have the shrine of our Imam, al-Kadhim alayhi salam and Jawad alayhi salam, and at the other side of Baghdad you would have the shrine of Shafi'i Hanbali scholar, and by the name of Abdul Qadir Gilani, and he has a shrine. If you look at it from the outside, you'd assume that's a Shi'i shrine, and he's Shafi'i Hanbali. We respect them. This is their scholar. He has a history, he has a past, and we don't want to destroy that past. We don't want to destroy their history. So how disrespectful and rude is it for us to demolish it, And no one calls it bud'ah, and no one calls it, shirk. That you just go visit their grave, you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you build this connection with your scholar. Likewise, when we go to our Imams, we build this connection to them. We worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because our answers are answered near the most loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I find it very rude and very disrespectful, and we all find it like that. Not only the Shi'as, even the non-Shi'as as well. If you read also in Sahih al-Bukhari, there's another narration, and this is about Khalid ibn al-Walid. And from this, it shows you that sometimes there are things that are connected to the one that you loved. It's very important. It could be very small. For example, and this is in book Sahih al-Bukhari, he says Khalid ibn al-Walid that in Mawqa'at al-Yarmouk, he lost Quwansala. Quwansala is like a cap. So he told his companions, search for it. They went, they searched, they couldn't find it. They went back to him, Khalid, they couldn't find it. Search for it again. They searched until they found it. Once they found it, it was an old cap. So they brought it to him. They're like, Khalid, this cap, this is the cap that, you made us search for it. He said that the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in Hajj, when they were shaving his head, his hair was falling to the ground. The Muslims gathered and they took these pieces of hair. He says, me Khalid, I took sha'ar nasiyat al-Nabi. Nasiyah is this forehead. You really can't see hair on the forehead. It's very small baby hair. He says, I took these baby hairs and I put it in this quwansala, and every time I would enter a battle, every time I would enter a war, كَانَ عَلَيَّ الْفَتْحُ نَصِيبِي, I would win that battle from the barakah of the Prophet's little tiny hairs. Our Imam's graves has barakah. Likewise, and this is in the book of Sahih al-Bukhari. If someone wants to say, call it bud'ah, this is Khalid ibn al-Walid. It's in your books, go read them. So I don't understand the whole meaning when someone says, this is bud'ah and this is shirk. And this is the only excuse that they can use, because if you go, you find graves for Malik, Abu Hanifa, Hanbal, all their scholars, they have shrines, they have graves. If that's bud'ah, then that's bud'ah as well, demolish them. If that's shirk, then that's shirk as well, demolish them. And I still don't understand what hate they have towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because this is his lineage, these are his grandchildren. I mean, what hate do you have? Even if you want to look, for example, in Jannat Mu'alla, it's demolished as well. What hate do you have? And we find it very disrespectful, it's very rude to demolish these graves, because sometimes when you love the Holy Prophet, you even love these pieces of hair. So why don't you love his lineage?
I think it's important to point out that even the Sunni school of thought, they have Jannat al-Baqi as a place of respect as well. It's these extremists who have come and demolished and destroyed Jannat al-Baqi, Jannat al-Mu'alla, the other important sites like the homes of our beloved Prophet and Imam Ali alayhi salam. And like you said, it's very upsetting that we as mothers, we as parents, we cannot take our children to Jannat al-Baqi. We cannot visit these holy places. We cannot visit these holy graves and pay our respects. And inshallah, we pray when Imam Mahdi Ajalallahu Ta'ala Faraj Sharif reappears, that will all be put right for us, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Now, we spoke about the women who are buried in Jannat al-Baqi. We said Bibi al-Baneen is buried in Jannat al-Baqi. Now, we know Bibi al-Baneen is the mother of 4 sons, especially the mother of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, who we all know and love dearly. Now, Bibi al-Baneen alayhi salam took Imam Hussein alayhi salam as her son. So when she found out about the tragedy that befell upon Imam Hussein and the holy household, when Sayyidah Zainab salamullahi alayha, when Imam Sajjad and the remaining women and children returned back to Medina, and Bibi al-Baneen alayhi salam heard about what took place on the 10th of Muharram, the day of Ashura, every single day she would visit Jannat al-Baqi and hold majalises there. She would do latmiya and matam and gham and majalises to honor Imam Hussein, her son, to spread awareness. And she was instrumental and pivotal in spreading awareness as to what happened on the day of Ashura and afterwards as well. So much so that she would be crying and lamenting and weeping so much that even the enemies would sometimes stop in their tracks to listen to what Bibi al-Baneen alayhi salam had to say. She is buried there next to the aunts of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, Safiya and Atika. We also know that Bibi Fatima bint Asad, the mother of Imam Ali alayhi salam, is buried there. And she was again a very key figure in the early years of our beloved Prophet Muhammad's life. We know that he was orphaned and then he was raised by Bibi Amina, his mother. But even when Bibi Amina alayhi salam was made shaheed, Bibi Fatima bint Asad raised with Hazrat Abu Talib, raised our beloved Prophet Muhammad. And when she was made shaheed, when she passed away, it saddened Imam Ali, of course, but it saddened our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, a lot. So she is buried there in Jannat al-Baqi as well. And we know that some narrations tell us that perhaps our mother, Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha, is buried in Jannat al-Baqi. Of course, we don't know her actual grave, and we will not know that until the time of reappearance of our Imam. But narrations tell us that she may be buried in Jannat al-Baqi. And we know that she was buried in the secrecy of the night, in the darkness of the night, and only a very few handful of people were there at her burial. Imam Ali alayhi salam, Hassanain alayhum salam, and a few very close companions and friends loyal to the family. So we know that there are these holy women, holy personalities who are buried in Jannat al-Baqi. Let's, in this last few minutes of this segment, talk a little bit more about these holy personalities, in particular these women who are buried in Jannat al-Baqi.
You know, you mentioned al-Baneen alayhi salam. Today we all have a connection with al-Baneen, even if we don't visit her grave, because she presented 4 of her children to Imam Hussein alayhi salam in the land of Karbala.
Yes.
And she was the wife of, the commander of faithful, Ali alayhi salam. أولهم Fatima al-Zahra was his wife, وآخرهم Fatima bint Huzam was the wife of the commander of faithful. And this woman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gave her an honor that, when you have a haja, a dua, just by using her as an intercession, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you this haja. And many of us, today, we yearn to go to her grave and stand there and just remember and thank her for what she has presented in Karbala. But we don't have this opportunity to do it from close, to be there and to take our children and show them the history of this great lady, and that's in Jannat al-Baqi'. And people can say, you know what, the Wahhabis and the Wahhabism, they have hate towards the Commander of Faithful, so they want to destroy it, and of course towards Lady Fatima. So let me take you out from Jannat al-Baqi and let's go to Jannat al-Mu'alla. Do you have hate towards Lady Khadijah alayhi salam, the wife of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, or Salama, or all the honorables that are buried there? What hate do you have towards them? I mean, the Lady Khadijah alayhi salam, she's the first woman who stood beside Rasulullah. She supported him in everything. You know, there is a narration that says that when the Holy Prophet says, you know, that I'm a prophet, and qama ilayhi Abu Lahab came and threw on stones on him, and a lot of, you know, the people that threw stones on the Holy Prophet, the Prophet was bleeding from stones that were hitting him. And the narration says that Khadijah wasn't there during that time. But when she reached that news, her and the Commander of Faithful, Imam Ali alayhi salam, when they reached that news, she went. And the narration says that she looked around for Rasulullah. She searched for him in the valleys. And she would scream, Muhammad, oh Muhammad, where are you? And she would cry and shed tears and mourn until Jibreel went down to the Holy Prophet and says, Ya Rasulullah, answer her. She made the heavens cry over you. She's crying, she's shedding tears. And the way that she was crying and searching for you in the alley. I mean, if you believe in the Holy Prophet and you consider yourself as a Muslim, let's just leave Jannat al-Baqi for a bit. Let's come to Jannat al-Mu'alla. What hate do you have towards Lady Khadijah alayhi salam? She's the wife of the Holy Prophet. She stood beside him. When she found him, she brought him to her kingdom, to her palace. And you know, because she was Amirat al-Umara, she was like the princess, she was like Amirat Quraysh. And she took him, you know, you have, as a palace, you would have like a balcony. She placed him there, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. She put a rock, like something like to shed the Holy Prophet, so like a rock, so that every time they would throw stones, it would hit that rock. And if they would hit from beneath, it would hit, you know, the balcony. And she stood right beside him. And if they hit straight, it would hit her, not him. And the narration says that they kept throwing stones on the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and she shake them with a word that really hit them a lot. When she said to them, if you do not respect the Holy Prophet, then respect a free woman in her palace. And they all left. So this woman that stood beside Rasulullah, you would demolish her grave? Now we all know why they would demolish the A'immat al-Baqi. We know why they would demolish the four Imams and Lady Fatima and al-Baneen and Fatima bint Asad. It's because they're all towards Shia, and people would enter and would say, what are these graves? What's the history? They would learn and they would become Shias. So they say, demolish this history. We don't want it to be known and to be seen and to be taught. You know, so that people don't build this connection. When you go for Hajj, for example, and then you go to Medina and Makkah, and then you go and visit the Holy Prophet, and then you see the Imams and the shrines, people will go into Shia and they'll become Shias. So they demolish that history. But let's go, why would you demolish the wife of the Holy Prophet? You know, you have narrations that Jeddah was named Jeddah because Jaddatuna, our grandmother, is buried in there. Hawa, they even demolished that. You know, they demolished all the prophets that are buried there. So, you know, we can keep talking about each honorable that's buried there and their great history, but you'd realize that there is an extreme hate that is not, you know, there's no answer for them, that why they did such a thing. I mean, if they demolished one or two, all right, we understand, but they demolished everything that gives us history. And, you know, it's just very, very sad. It's our sorrow, you know, and we want to speak up because we want to show the people in the world that we care. We're in sorrow. We're in pain. These are all our honorable women, honorable figures, the companions of the Holy Prophet and his holy household and our four Imams, you know, and they have a great history. So why this demolishing and destructing these graves?
Absolutely. And say that Khadijah salamullahi alayha, yes, she was the first wife of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, but she's also the mother of our religion. And we know narrations tell us that our beloved Prophet would say that not just the wealth of Sayyidah Khadijah, but her love, she shielded him, she believed in him, she protected him when no one else did. And that's why we call her the mother of our religion. And even when they were residing in the valley of Hazrat Abu Talib, she protected our beloved Prophet Muhammad. She would stand guard at night to protect him. She would go hungry so he could eat. and that eventually led to her shahadat. So, I mean, we could talk about Sayyidah Khadijah continuously, but we have just but a few minutes left. And I just want to highlight on the last question of this segment that us as women, we are not allowed to visit Jannat al-Baqi. Now, the extremists say that women generally should not be going to any graveyard or any cemetery. However, we know that this is untrue. For example, Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha would visit the grave of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, after he was made shaheed. And she would go every day after Fajr and take Hasnain alayhim as-salam with her. And every day she would weep at his grave and visit his grave. And then of course we know Imam Ali alayhi salam built her a separate house where she could remember our beloved Prophet Muhammad in that house. We know narrations tell us that she would also visit Hamza in Uhud. So we have these narrations that say that Fatima salamullahi alayha would visit holy graves. Now, with Jannat al-Baqi, even the men are restricted from going to Jannat al-Baqi. There's a very narrow time frame. They're ushered away very quickly. They can't go to the graves. There's no ziyarah being recited there as such. But us women are completely told, forbidden to go there. In these last few minutes, why is it so important for us women, especially to be able to take our young daughters to Jannat al-Baqi?
It's very important, and the reason why they didn't allow women, and there's only one reason to it, to be honest, because even when men go and visit Jannat al-Baqi, they rush them. They don't even allow them to stand there and read du'as and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what they want, and to pray 2 rak'at to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course not to the grave, but to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this holy place. They don't allow you to read Quran. They don't allow you to read any supplication. And some people that go there from the men, they're just confused, who's buried there? I mean, who are these graves? And they don't have this answer. They rush them. But women are so emotional. So what they do is we'll weep, we'll cry, we'll say salams, we want to worship. The men, if they did that, they'll drag them and they'll put them in prison. There's consequences. Rush or else there's consequences. But for women, if they did such thing, it's going to reflect bad back on them. So what they do is end of story. We don't want women to enter Jannat al-Baqi. And when they say that these graves shouldn't be for women, I mean all the narrations throughout, if we had much time, we'd literally go into Sahih al-Bukhari and get so much narrations from their books of how women used to go and visit graves and shrines. And even if you look, for example, Maqam Ibrahim and Hijr Ismail, they are present today. Not only the Shias, the Sunnis as well. We take tabarruk from these places, except the Wahhabis. They don't take tabarruk from these places. If you look at even Ashab al-Kahf, the narration says وَجَاءُ اتَّخَذُوا عَلَيْهِ مَسْجِدًا. They made a masjid on the graves of Ahlul Kahf. Why? Because they had a sacred message and they were honorables and they had connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So none, even if you read more in narrations, you'd find Palestine has graves. And Umar is the one who opened Palestine, their first Khilafah, and the second Khilafah as well. And they did not ask to, demolish these graves. I mean, you'd have the prophets there, Isaac, Ibrahim, Yusuf, Yaqub, they're all buried in Palestine, and Umar is the one who opened Palestine, and he's their first Khilafah and the second Khilafah as well, and he never asked to demolish these graves. So what's your answer to demolishing the graves and saying women are not allowed to? Even the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, he never said that women are not allowed to visit the graves of the prophets that are in Palestine. And if you look at history, you'd find Egypt, Maghreb, Yemen, Iraq, Iran, and Hijaz, of course, they're full with graves. And these graves are, sacred graves of honorable people that are connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're great in history. And even if you look at their khulafa, they didn't say that women are not allowed to visit, and the Holy Prophet didn't. And from their books, no narration, nothing that says that women shouldn't visit these, graves. And no one says that it's bud'ah. The Holy Prophet didn't. Their sahabas didn't. Umar didn't say it was bud'ah. He didn't say it was shirk. He kept these graves. So I still don't understand what's their reasoning behind, demolishing the grave, other than one thing, is that this is the right path to history and to Ahl al-Bayt, and they try to hide it. And this is the only reason that we can give ourselves the answers.
MashaAllah, sister, you know, this is a topic that we could continue discussing, and I am conscious of time. We have run out of our segment, but it's platforms like this where we can discuss and we can talk about the relevance of Jannat al-Baqi, its destruction, and why it's so important for us. And thank you once again for joining us. I always learn from you, and inshallah our dear viewers have learnt as well. And we pray for the quick reappearance of our beloved Imam Zamana alayhi salam, and when he reappears we pray that Jannat al-Baqi is restored to its full glory as well, inshallah. Thank you, dear viewers, for watching. We will be back after the break for another segment, but from Sister Dua and from myself, thank you for watching. Until next time, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.